If Lyme disease pain was only about infection, most people wouldn't still be in pain months or years later. And if more treatment was the answer, a lot of people listening to this would already be better. What makes Lyme pain so confusing and honestly demoralizing is that it doesn't behave like normal pain. It moves, it flares without warning, it shows up even when labs improve. In this episode, I'll explain why Lyme pain persists, what's actually driving it underneath the surface, and the missing piece that no one ever actually talks about, but that absolutely changes how recovery works. If you've ever thought, why am I still in pain? Why does my body still feel like this? Then this episode is for you. I'm not here to diagnose or treat anyone. My role is to help people understand what's going on inside their body so they can make better, more informed decisions about their healing. Look, Lyme pain doesn't behave like injury pain or structural pain or any kind of acute inflammatory pain even. It behaves in its own way. It can be really difficult because it moves around the body. It doesn't just stay still. So one day your left knee can hurt, then all of a sudden your elbows are hurting, then your right knee hurts all of a sudden the next day. It makes almost no sense when you're the one experiencing this pain just shifting around your body. It can change intensity as well. It doesn't just move around, it can change how much it actually hurts. And on a scale of 1 to 10, one day you could be a 2, the next day you could be a 9. It often appears unrelated to activity or to anything else going on in your life. It can kind of just do its own thing. So even if you're doing hard activity one day, it might not hurt at all. Then the next day it might hurt terribly bad, even though you're just kind of chilling or, sitting on the couch. It has no rhyme or reason, which makes it really frustrating. And the worst part, it persists even after treatment. So even after using antibiotics or herbal treatment, your joints can still hurt, even after you feel like everything else has gotten better. And not just your joints. The pain can be anywhere. We have a lot of people that have headaches or, spinal pain, back pain, all types of pain. But many people experience pain without any visible damage, which is obviously something going on inside the body rather than outside the body. So it probably won't be visible to the human eye. And they might experience pain with even having good labs. Like if your lab results come back normal, but you're still in pain all the time, this is a huge red flag towards Lyme disease. And also, this is an experience that many people with Lyme disease have regularly. And it could be really annoying and frustrating, but pain can also worsen with treatment as well, which that sucks too. Like, imagine you're finally getting the right treatment. Some people go undiagnosed for so long. They finally get that diagnosis. They finally get treatment. They think, finally, my body's going to feel better. I'm going to be out of pain. And then the pain gets worse. And that can happen for lots of reasons, including Herxheimer reactions, which we discuss on this channel all the time, but not right now. The point is, you can have a flare of pain at any point for seemingly no reason. And this creates self-doubt, it creates frustration, it creates fear that something is being missed. Like, what am I doing wrong? Did I miss a step? Am I not detoxing correctly? Am I not, doing anything right? And this leads to a constant scanning of the body and thinking about that pain. Mentally, this can be a toll on our brain as well, because if we constantly scan the body for that pain, we're constantly thinking about it. Usually you get what you focus on. So if you're focusing on pain all the time, you probably will feel it more. And that's not to say that you should just shut it out and never think about it, but it is to say that leads to more problems when we start to constantly think about that pain and wonder why it's there and hope it goes away and think about it and give it all that energy and focus, it stays even longer. Pain is not the same thing as tissue damage. Pain is a signal, not proof. Okay? So it's not actually proof that something is terribly wrong underneath. It's just a symptom signal. It's something we should be aware of. It's something we should understand. It's something that we should try to take action to fix, of course, but it's not proof that anything has gone wrong underneath the surface. It's not proof that there's tissue damage, injury, or any type of inflammatory pain cycle going on there. So, fatigue and pain are actually connected. And so most people don't realize this, but they're not separate symptoms in Lyme disease. Fatigue and pain often go hand in hand. And that's why when I ask people, we do surveys all the time for our clients and ask everyone, what's the worst thing that you're dealing with right now with Lyme disease? Usually it's number one, fatigue, number two, pain. Or sometimes that's reversed, sometimes pain and then fatigue. And what I mean by that is the number of people replying with their symptom. They'll, most people will say fatigue, and then secondly, most people will say pain, or the other way around. Sometimes there's just more people with pain that reply to the survey, and then more people with fatigue that reply to the survey. So they're expressions of the same overloaded system. So you can think of it like it's actually an expression of what's going on underneath. It's not actually like this person has pain and this person has fatigue and they're completely different people. It's usually they have an overloaded system, and some people that presents as fatigue, and some people it presents as pain. Some people it presents as both, and some people it presents switching back and forth between being absolutely exhausted and being in severe pain. So it's not like separate symptoms. They're both coming from the same exact underlying causes. And it's really important to focus on those root causes above all else, because if we don't, we're kind of just throwing band-aid solutions at our symptoms, which happens all the time in the traditional medical system. If you have a lot of inflammation, they just kind of give you a steroid and say, here, this will fix it. It doesn't actually fix the reason that you're experiencing a lot of inflammation. What it does is just kind of slow down that inflammation and stamp down that inflammation a little bit. And that's not the same thing as fixing the underlying cause that's actually causing that inflammation. So we do want to realize that an overloaded system that's dealing with Lyme disease and co-infections, and also trying to filter through all of the different treatments that you're using, is the reason that we're experiencing fatigue or pain. And when fatigue spikes, pain often follows closely after. So we'll see someone get absolutely exhausted one day, and then the next day they're like, I'm in so much pain now too. And that is obviously demoralizing, and it really sucks for a lot of people. But when pain spikes, energy often collapses. So, like I said, those two things are usually very closely linked together. That's probably why when we do surveys, they're always number one and two, because basically everyone has both of them at random times. So, this isn't weakness, okay? It's important to realize you're not weak, you're not, less than, or you're not focusing too much on your pain. This isn't a mental thing. This is real. You're actually experiencing this pain, and you deserve to get help with that. You deserve to get better. And it's a lot of it comes down to resource depletion with Lyme disease. So remember, these microbes are stealing resources from the body. Their whole goal is not really to hurt you, it's survival. They're trying to stay alive for as long as possible. And the easiest way for them to do that is to use resources that are in our body and to penetrate our cells and basically steal magnesium, collagen, and other types of nutrients that we need. Selenium is another one that's really important. But it's really important to realize that you're not, feeling pain because the microbe itself is causing pain. Usually the pain has to do with the microbe stealing resources, which then leads to pain. A lot of times it's collagen. Our joints require collagen to work properly. And when they, that's the main food source of Lyme microbes. So when they steal all that collagen, then that can lead to enough resource depletion that our joints start to hurt, that our bones start to hurt. And then on top of that, the body is constantly adapting, trying to figure its way through this mess, trying to get out of this. It's constantly defending. It's trying to find and kill those Lyme microbes and defend your body from that threat. And it's constantly scanning for that threat. It's constantly sending out more and more cytokines, more and more inflammation, more and more immune system cells. And they're just searching for that threat, that microbe that's causing all this pain. And pain actually becomes part of the warning system of that constant defense, that constant adapting, and that constant scanning. So the pain is actually in response to all of that that's going on inside the body. So let's talk about why treatment can increase that pain. Often people notice that the pain increases after using antimicrobials or antibiotics. The pain can flare after doing something that's even considered as immune system support. So that is obviously frustrating. You're here supporting your immune system, trying to make it so you can fight back against this thing, and it causes a flare in pain. Nobody wants that. The pain can worsen during aggressive protocols, and using these aggressive protocols that try to kill off microbes often lead to a spike in that pain that you're feeling. And this leads to confusion because people say, is this a Herxheimer reaction? If you don't know, a Herx reaction is when Lyme microbes die off and release a bunch of toxins, which can lead to a worsening of symptoms. And so when you take those antimicrobials and your pain increases, most people, the first thing they think is this a Herx reaction? Or they might think, is this healing? I mean, sometimes it can be painful to heal, especially in today's age when, we see all these crazy different treatments, especially for if you think of cancer and all of that stuff. Sometimes treatment itself is just painful. And some people often wonder, am I damaging myself? When I'm taking this treatment and I see pain as a result, maybe I'm doing the wrong thing. Maybe I'm moving in the wrong direction. Maybe I'm actually hurting my body instead of helping it. And that thought can be damaging to your overall treatment plan. It can be really difficult to stay on the path when that's happening. But immune activation does not equal regulation, right? So this is really, really important that when your immune system is activated, that doesn't mean that it's regulated. It can actually be overactive and causing more symptoms, more damage inside the body. It could actually lead to autoimmune-like symptoms where the immune system is attacking your own body. And often that's the case with Lyme disease as it searches frantically to try to find these microbes. And we know how good these microbes are at hiding and at reverse engineering what our immune system is going to do, and then basically evading the immune system like a professional burglar, like a thief in the night. You know what I mean? And that causes the immune system to activate even more, and it leads to that cytokine cascade that we talk about. So immune activation is not the same thing as immune system regulation, where the immune system is operating correctly at the correct level. And stimulation does not equal safety, right? Stimulating the immune system and the nervous system doesn't is not the same thing as feeling safe and comfortable and having a nervous system that's working in parasympathetic state. It's actually oftentimes the opposite. And we need to try to not overstimulate things in the body because that can lead to more pain as well. So the immune system can fight infections. It can do that. It's very good at it. It's basically the whole reason it exists. But it can also trigger inflammation, which is a good thing. That's a part of how it fights infections and it keeps us healthy. But at the same time, too much inflammation causes severe problems. But it can create sensitive nerves as well. The immune system being overreactive can sometimes cause the nerves to feel that pain that we always feel. And some people have nerve pain with Lyme disease. And a lot of that has to do with the overactivation of the immune system. But it also actually keeps pain circuits active. So when the immune system is overramped and there's all that inflammation, your nerve systems become active. The pain circuits themselves light up and they're more active. They feel things more. And so some little pain that you might not have felt before becomes very, very obvious and painful now. And that's part of the series of problems, the multi-system problem that is Lyme disease. So pain can persist even when the threat is reduced. So even when Lyme microbes are being killed off and your body is in a better place and the microbes are dying, the pain can still be there. A lot of times this has to do with damage itself. Think of it like a car accident. When you get in a car accident, you might be able to drive your car away and it's completely normal, it's fine, except there's a huge dent in the front of it. The damage is still there. Even if the car is okay and it still runs, the damage is still there on the outside. The damage has been done already. And that can happen with Lyme disease microbes as they, deplete our resources. This can lead to damage in the joints and damage in the tissues long term. Then when we get rid of those microbes, sometimes we still feel the pain because the damage is still there, like that car accident. So what about the nervous system? See, we always talk about the nervous system because it plays a vital part in Lyme disease healing. And a lot of people never even talk about it or think about it. And your doctor likely won't give you a long speech or tell you about your nervous system, even though it plays a vital role in the process of healing your body. And so it's paramount that we think about this, that we talk about this, and that we take action on some of these things that we're going to talk about when it comes to the nervous system, because the nervous system's primary job is protection. It wants to protect your body at all costs. And it doesn't care about logic. It doesn't care about timelines, right? It doesn't operate in the same universe as us. The whole goal of the nervous system is to keep us safe. And so it only asks, am I safe? And that's it. That's all it cares about. So chronic Lyme and long-term Lyme disease teaches the nervous system that the world is unpredictable, that you never know if you're actually safe, that the body is under threat right now. And symptoms from Lyme disease equal danger. So the body just senses that it's in danger. The nervous system then goes into this hyperactive state, fight or flight mode, and basically makes it so it's really hard for the body to heal or do anything that will help it, that will help itself get better. It kind of shuts down in a way and forces the body to move in a way that keeps it safe instead of helps it thrive. So there's a huge difference between survival and thriving, right? We all know that because survival is just making it to see another day. Thriving is the body's getting better and better and better. So over time, the nervous system becomes hyper vigilant because it's been trained that something is wrong. that it's in danger, that there's microbes, you know, stealing resources and causing problems, causing tissue damage. And that causes actually pain thresholds to lower. So while you might have been able to handle severe pain before, now the nervous system is saying this is a serious problem. We need to stay online. We need to stay focused. We need to stay vigilant here. And the pain threshold's lower. So you feel the pain even more, even though it's the same level of pain that you may not have noticed before you had Lyme disease. It can absolutely be debilitating now that you have Lyme disease and the nervous system is in such a hyperactive state of fight or flight or freeze. So these sensations that you're feeling, the pain that you're feeling, it all gets amplified. And that's frustrating. It's really hard. That's why we're talking about this. But this is called central sensitization. And like I said, it's basically just your body staying online, staying active so that it can keep your body safe. So it lowers those pain thresholds. So every little pain feels worse. This leads to pain amplification, and you actually get stuck in that alarm system. So your body just thinks it's in danger all the time unless you train it otherwise, which is the whole goal of a lot of the things that we do. So this is not psychological, by the way. This is actually biological learning. This is your body doing what it's supposed to do in a biological sense to keep you alive, make sure you survive, and live to see another day. This is not something that you can rewire in your brain, although that's not to say that there's no place for psychological rewiring. I believe in it full-heartedly. I think it's very helpful. I think it could actually work in the reverse order where that psychological relearning can actually help the nervous system calm down, but the problem itself does not come from there. It actually comes from biological learning. Your body's doing exactly what it should be. But unfortunately, that causes a lot more pain than it does health in this scenario. And if you're now wondering, well, how do I support my nervous system? Well, there's a ton of videos on this channel. I hope you'll check some of them out. We go deep into this a lot of the time, but basically, we want to calm down that nervous system, whatever it takes. For some people, that's meditation. For some people, that's walking in nature. For some people, that's breath work. We need to do whatever we can to let the body know that it's safe, that it's healthy, and sometimes even just saying things in our own mind, psychological relearning can help that process as well. Just telling yourself you're safe does have an effect on the body, especially if you're doing that consistently over a long period of time. But why does pain persist after the infection load changes? So microbes are dying off, the infection seems to be going away, the overall load of microbes is changing, but you're still feeling that pain. The reason is pain pathways can remain active even after the infection decreases. And even when inflammation markers improve, so your labs might be looking great, things might be moving in the right direction, things are all going well, but those pain pathways remain active. They're still online, they're still in fight or flight mode, and the pain threshold is still at that same level. And the nervous system remembers, for lack of a better term, it doesn't actually remember, but it holds on to those past threats, that past injury, past overwhelm, whatever causes the pain that you're experiencing, your nervous system remembers that. That's why oftentimes if you ever watch sports or athletes after an injury, sometimes especially a very serious injury, sometimes they're never the same again. And it's not usually a mental thing. It's actually their body keeping them safe. Their nervous system remembers that pain and that damage that they went through, and it just won't let them get back to that same level that they were at before. It's got nothing to do with psychology. It's got nothing to do with, you know, weakness or anything like that. It's just the nervous system holding on to those past threats. And that's a huge thing that people deal with all over the world. Whether it's athletes or it's just regular people who have Lyme disease, pain becomes a habit of protection. So your body wants to know as soon as there's pain because then it can help you survive. And it becomes a learned response. So it's not just a response that is happening in cue of something else happening from the outside. It's also a learned response that just happens regularly because the body gets used to moving in that direction. So this explains why rest doesn't always help. You know, if all it took was, oh, you're in pain, just rest, put your feet up a little bit, watch that Netflix today and take a break. If that was the case, then we wouldn't really be having this conversation. Rest doesn't always help when it comes to pain, and that's part of the problem. But pushing usually does make it worse. If we're being honest, trying to, go do that big task or that big activity or run that marathon or go for that long hike when you're already in pain will probably make the pain worse. So that's just something to think about and to realize. And random flares do happen. So even if you're doing everything right, sometimes there's just a random flare of pain for seemingly no reason. Sometimes it's tied to like the weather. It's tied to whatever's going on around you. Sometimes you have something stressful happen in your life, and that causes the nervous system to come back online in that fight or flight mode again. Even if you already got it into that parasympathetic rest and repair mode in the past, it can go back to fight or flight mode whenever that's required or necessary, according to the nervous system, not according to you. And then those pain signals come back online, the pain flare can happen again. So here's the missing piece. The missing piece that most people never talk about, but this is what actually changes Lyme recovery and what actually works is regulation, not suppression. It's so easy to say, oh, my inflammation is through the roof. I need to stamp that down. And oftentimes you'll see doctors prescribe steroids to do that. And those have their own long-term risks and stipulations that need to be thought through for each and every person. Again, I don't say this to try and discourage you from taking steroids or discourage you away from any type of treatment or even discourage you away from a doctor. Of course, listen to your qualified healthcare practitioner, but it is important to think these things through and not always just take the first answer that you're given, right? If we always take the first answer we're given, some people end up in really bad situations. There is money tied to these ideas as well. And sometimes doctors might suggest surgeries, which is completely heartbreaking when they're suggesting surgeries mainly because it brings in a lot of profit for their medical center, not because it's absolutely required. And then sometimes people get surgery and end off worse than they were before. And that's terrible. I hate seeing that. And it seems to be more and more common these days that they're requesting surgery for things that seem to be just long-term regular pain or damage to a joint or a shoulder socket or something. I know that happened to my mother. They're telling her you need surgery, you need surgery. And I'm like, Mom, let's like get a second opinion, get a third opinion, talk to more professionals. Don't just take the first person's word for it because sometimes there's ulterior motives or there's other things going on there. So just a little side note there. But let's talk about this missing piece. Most Lyme recovery focuses on killing, reducing, suppressing, right? And it's completely normal to have that response as a human being when we feel we're in threat, when we feel we have an infection. We've all been taught, let's stamp that down, let's fix that, let's kill that, let's reduce that, let's suppress that inflammation. But what we're not realizing is that these are all signals. These symptoms are signals of what's going on underneath. So if we stamp down those signals, we're not listening to our body. We're not in tune with what the body actually needs. We're just shutting off that signal. And that is a huge problem because the missing focus here is actually regulation, safety, capacity. These are the things that underlie everything, right? We don't need to shut our immune system down or stamp it down or reduce that inflammation. We need to regulate that inflammation so that it works at a normal level, not at an over-ramped level. That's the difference here that we're talking about. And the body cannot heal when it's in survival mode. It just simply won't do it. It's not the priority. When your body's in survival mode, it is trying to survive, obviously, right? But so healing requires a downshifted nervous system. It requires parasympathetic state, which is a fancy way of saying the opposite of fight or flight mode. More like rest and repair mode is what I like to call it. Okay? And it requires predictability. And this is where people get caught up because it's not some big fancy, crazy system or treatment that's going to fix everything. It's actually the safe, boring, predictable patterns that end up getting us better. And this took me a long time to learn. It took me a while when I was dealing with Lyme disease to come to terms with, oh, this isn't going to be like some heroic thing that happens. This isn't going to be like some rocky cutscene where I'm running up the stairs and then I get better, right? It's going to be more like safe, predictable, boring habits day in, day out, staying hydrated, going for little walks, deep breathing, meditation, doing the same things every single day, eating food at the same time, going to bed at the same time. That boring, predictable, safe nature is what allows the nervous system to go, oh, okay, everything's okay. Everything seems to be in order. Everything is predictable. I'm getting fed at the same time. I'm getting sleep at the same time. I'm getting hydration every single day. I'm getting breath. I'm getting, oxygen. And that's when things calm down. That's when things start to actually work on healing instead of survival. And that's the whole switch that we're trying to make because pain reduces when the threat perception lowers, when the body realizes, oh, we're okay. There's no huge threat bothering us. When the systems communicate better, when our gut can speak to our brain and our brain can speak to our gut, and all of the other systems can communicate regularly, the immune system can talk, can communicate amongst itself. The immune system is a vast system of all types of different cells that work in conjunction together. And if they're not able to communicate clearly because it's overramped and there's all this energy inside the body because there's a threat perceived and there's fight or flight mode going on, the communication becomes all noisy instead of signal where they can actually communicate clearly. It becomes like static. Shh. And there's not that clear communication between cells. This causes confusion and it causes more problems. It causes a lot of the pain that we experience, and the body stops bracing when we finally have that nervous system calmed down and the communication going better and the threat lowered. Right now, a lot of time, people are they're in this tense state. They're bracing. They're waiting for the next shoe to drop. They feel anxious, they feel tired, they feel stressed out over this entire process of Lyme disease and healing. And if you're in that boat, the main thing to realize is we need to calm down by using predictable and safe habits every single day and letting the body see that there's no danger, there's no problem. And you might be saying, but there is danger, there is a problem. I've got this infection. And you're right, up to a certain point. That infection is there, but the body doesn't need to overreact in order to fix that, in order to find that infection and kill it. It honestly needs the opposite. It needs to calm down and realize that it's not a huge threat. These microbes don't want to kill you. You're a host carrying the microbe, right? It has no benefit from having you die or having you, you know, be worse off, really. It actually just wants to survive itself. So it'll take enough to survive itself. It usually doesn't try to take so much that you die. Now, that's not saying that it's not possible because they can cause heart blockages, they can cause heart problems that will lead to further problems and death. They can cause problems in the brain that could eventually lead to death, but that's not their goal. It would take a long time for that to happen. And the body is not in a fight or flight mode when healing happens. So if we're able to say there's no threat, and we're able to show the body there's no threat. This isn't psychological, this is physical and biological. So we need to respond in a physical and biological way. But once we're able to do that and calm the nervous system down, things start to actually work in the right direction. But sometimes lifestyle changes can fail in Lyme disease, and actually often they fail in Lyme disease. So let's talk about why that is, because this is where people get frustrated and they get confused because they're doing everything right on paper, right? It looks like they're doing everything correct. They're eating clean. They cut out sugar. They're eating gluten-free. They're anti-inflammatory diet, and they're still reacting to food, right? So they have a perfect diet, but their body's still reacting negatively to some of the food that they eat, or they're taking their supplements. They're taking the herbs that we have at limewars.com to get better. They're taking minerals like magnesium and all the other minerals, sodium, potassium, etc. And they're doing nervous system support stuff. They're meditating or they're going for little walks or they're doing breath work. But instead of feeling better, their symptoms still flare. Or they're detoxing, right? They're using binders and saunas and detox protocols. But pain and fatigue or brain fog end up getting worse instead of better. They're resting. They're sleeping more. They're canceling plans that they don't feel like they can actually do because they don't have enough energy. They're slowing down, but they're not feeling restored or renewed. They don't have that renewed energy or spark, even though they're resting more. And this creates a dangerous conclusion in your mind. You start to think, nothing works for me. All of this stuff that they're telling me to do isn't working, or my body is broken, or even healthy things hurt me. And those stories, telling yourself those stories, are really, really damaging. But none of these are wrong. That's the thing to realize here. None of them are the wrong thing to do. All of those sound absolutely amazing. And if you did all of those things, you would be moving in the right direction. But they're just doing too much in a system that is already at capacity. Sometimes that's the case. That doesn't mean you shouldn't do them. It means the pressure to do these lifestyle changes sometimes leads in the opposite direction of where you want to go. So it's important to slow down and make yourself feel safe. And constantly changing everything in your lifestyle, especially if you try to do it all at the same time, can be overwhelming and it can feel like you're not safe. It can feel like you're in this state of threat and you're trying to fix this underlying problem And there's no problem to be fixed. It's just that you need to feel safe, predictable, and regularity is more important than changing everything in your life all at the same time. So that's often why lifestyle changes don't work. And they usually do work, but the question is, can you be consistent with the right changes? It's not like doing a sauna and detoxing and eating healthy and everything I just named. If you do all of it at the same time out of nowhere, it's not like that's just going to flip the switch. It requires consistency and regularity, predictability over time for the body to realize, oh, everything's okay. We're safe. Things are moving in the right direction. The foods we have are anti-inflammatory. We have more nutrients. We have more detoxification going on. There's less toxins here. And then things start moving in the right direction over time. And that's the whole thing. People hate the term over time, but this whole thing only works when you multiply by time. We can be doing all the right things, but if we only do it for a week or a day, it's not going to change much. Everything we do should be multiplied by time. And therefore, in my opinion, sometimes we shouldn't even start doing some of these things if we don't think we can stay consistent with it and continue doing it long term. Because then we're just, trying random things and we're kind of flailing our arms. It's kind of like if someone was jumped in a pool and they wanted to swim, right? You jump in the pool, you want to swim. Does it work if you're just flailing your arms all over the place randomly? No, that's called drowning. Okay? When you want to swim, it requires predictable, regular strokes, right? It requires consistency, regularity, predictability, and a sustainable system that allows you to move in that direction. Whether that's strokes or treading water, right? We're just doing the same movement over and over and over again. That is what we want. We want that consistency. We want to tread water, not flail our arms all around by doing random things like trying sauna this time, and then we're going to do this detox protocol, and then we're going to do these herbs for a week, and then we're going to do, no. We need consistency over a long period of time. Regularity, predictability. That is what gets the body to realize it's safe, and it starts to downgrade all of that inflammation. It starts to tell the nervous system to move into healing and rest and repair mode above fight, flight, or freeze mode, which allows the body to finally come back online and start moving in the right direction, start repairing cells, start repairing damage, and removing that pain from the body. So, oftentimes people fall into the trap of saying more, right? They want more supplements, more protocols, more intensity. And that is a mistake that I see very often because it often just ends up leading to more stimulation, more immune system activation, more nervous system threat, right? If you're constantly throwing more and more at the body, it's the same thing we just talked about. It's flailing your arms instead of doing that nice, simple forward stroke or treading water. Recovery is not about forcing the body. It's not about pushing. It's not about outworking the illness. And it's not about winning a war, right? Well, I do call it limewars.com. It's not because you're at war with your own body. And that's often the trap that people fall into. They think that, oh, there's something wrong with my body. I got to fix this. I got to fight every single day. And I fell into this trap big time when I was fighting Lyme disease. I actually started doing things that made no sense whatsoever because I was just thinking, okay, if I can be healthy, then my body will heal, right? And what do people tell you about being healthy? They tell you eat the chicken and broccoli, work out every single day, work really hard, push forward, right? Get motivated. So I tried doing all those things. That is not what heals the body from Lyme disease. That actually made me way worse. I was in a more stressed out state. I lost a bunch of sleep. I had big bags under my eyes. I might still a little bit, but let's be honest. I'm an adult living in the real world. Sometimes I get tired. I've got a lot going on. But like back then, I was younger, but I still had like you could see like this energy sucked out of my face. You could tell I wasn't getting the things that I needed. I was in a stressed out state, and I could feel it. You know when you're moving in the right direction, when you feel healthier and healthier, you know, and you could feel that. But in this state that I was in at this time when I was fighting Lyme disease, I was doing everything and getting worse. And that's exactly what I want to help people avoid. Because instead, I had to slow down. I had to actually listen to my body. When I was tired, I needed to rest. When I was hungry, I needed to eat. When I was full, I needed to stop eating. When I was, ramped up, I needed to calm down. And so it required tuning in and actually listening to my body and calibrating my life to what was actually required, allowing myself to feel safe, allowing myself to reach into those predictable, safe, boring routines that I know I could do consistently for years and years. Not saying I had to do it for years and years, just saying once you're doing something that's easily predictable, easily done every single day, having the same bedtime, the same foods, the same food time, the same having everything in a nice rhythm with consistency, that allowed my body to see this is safe, this is predictable, and that allowed me to rebuild capacity from there. So, oftentimes, our capacity is so low when it comes to Lyme disease, we need to rebuild that capacity and get it back to a place where, okay, now we can do a little bit more. Now we can do a little bit more, right? But it takes long periods of time in between. When I say now I could do a little bit more, it was probably a few months before I said now I could do a little bit more again. So slowly rebuilding that capacity as we're doing the safe, predictable routine that allows our nervous system to realize we are safe. That is what actually moves in the right direction. Not more, not adding more, not trying to work harder, not trying to go to war with your body every day, not trying to add more supplements, more protocols, and more treatments. That more trap is so easy to fall into as human beings because that's kind of how a lot of things work in this world is if we have more, it's better, right? But in this case, more is not better. Safe, predictable, consistent is better. So here's what actual progress ends up looking like. And this is the progress I saw in my life once I started realigning some of these things. It was less volatile, right? Less volatility. It's not like a big spike one day and then the next day you crash and then it's spike and crash and pain, so much pain and then no pain at all. That volatility comes along with that threat reaction from the nervous system. And once everything's calm, predictable, safe, then there's less of that volatility. There was fewer extreme flares. So I didn't have many extreme pain cycles or extreme fatigue cycles that cause me to crash hard or feel like I'm in severe pain. And there was faster recovery after setbacks. So setbacks still happen, don't get me wrong. It's not like it was just, and then from then on, it was a straight line. No, it wasn't. Because healing is non-linear. It's a process. There's ups and downs. But when you hit that setback and you go down a little bit, I was able to bounce back a lot faster, back to where I was. That's what I noticed in my healing journey. That's what a lot of my clients noticed too. Pretty much all of them. It goes like there's big waves like this at first, right? Huge extreme pain and then no pain, and then extreme pain and then no pain. And then as you get better, as you start to make things more predictable, more safe for your body, those waves get smaller. So you'll still have your setbacks, but boom, you bounce right back up quickly. Bounce right back up quickly. And that's what we want to get to. And pain reduction is nonlinear, like I just said, and it can be subtle at first. It might not feel like, oh wow, all my pain just disappeared. No, it slowly gets better over time, and it slowly happens as there's more safety and predictability, and the body gets back online with rest and repair and healing. So it can be easy to miss if you're only tracking symptoms. So you might not even realize it that it's getting better. It's like, yeah, I guess it's getting better, you know? That's what I hear a lot from people. They're like, I think it's moving in the right direction. And that's completely normal to feel that way and not to be like, wow, everything feels so much better. That's usually not what I hear. It's like, yeah, I think it's getting better, maybe, you know? But over time, it does get better and better. And that's when people call me and say, I don't need your herbs anymore because I feel fine now. And that one day they look up and they realize, wow, I don't really have any pain or any symptoms at all. It's not like I said, it's not like one day they're hurting, the next day everything's better. It's more like, yeah, I stayed consistent and like it seems like it's working, but we'll see and we'll see and we'll see. And I don't know, I guess it feels a little better. And then eventually, months later, they look up and go, oh wow, I don't really have any pain anymore. I just realized it's pretty much all gone. It's because they spent months doing the safe, predictable, consistent routine that allowed their body to slowly but surely start to get better. So true healing is boring. It's slow. It's safe. It's not some crazy heroic thing that it's not like I rip off my shirt and like, fight everything. That's not what healing really is. There's no crazy treatment that gets everything better. I mean, I shouldn't say there's no crazy treatment. I guess there could be. But what I'm saying is what I've seen and what I've done in my life and helped thousands of other clients do is take the boring, slow, safe route that gets you to where you want to go, but it just requires time. So let's start to round this out and start landing this plane. Pain is not betrayal. It's not your body betraying you or pushing back against you or trying to hurt you, right? It's not failure either. It's not like you suck, so here's some pain. It's not like you're doing the wrong things or you're not taking the right steps. It's communication. It's part of the process. It's a signal among all the noise. It's your body trying to speak to you, and it's your job to listen. So the question should shift from how do I get rid of this to what is my system trying to protect me from, right? So it's really not about killing anything, reducing anything, or stamping down any inflammation or anything like that. It's about your body protecting you from the threats that it believes it's under. So that should help. Just thinking about that alone should help reduce fear because you shouldn't be afraid of your body protecting you. This is a good thing. It should reduce resistance. You don't have to fight this. And it should reduce sensitization. So you don't have to be sensitive to all these changes, right? This is completely normal. There's no reason to fight back against your body trying to protect you. It's time to work with your body. It's time to allow your body to feel seen, heard, and safe. And that is what moves things in the right direction. And so often we do the opposite. We try to feel, you know, like we're doing more and more. We try to push through. We try to add things. We try to add treatments, add different protocols, add different supplements, and keep changing things. What that does is it's us flailing our arms when we jump in the water instead of doing the safe, boring, predictable treading water that allows us to keep our head above water, stay safe, and stay happy and healthy. So again, this is not quick. This is not easy. It's not just going to happen like that, but it is workable. This is a serious thing that you can actually do moving forward. In the next episode, we're diving into immune system support and why that often makes pain and fatigue worse instead of better in the context of Lyme disease. If you enjoyed this and you want to go a little bit deeper, I created a free guide specifically for you to help you with Lyme disease, co-infections, and trying to get your body better in an all-natural, holistic way. It covers 6 steps that I use for myself and I use with all of my clients, and you can have it for free. The link is directly below. It's in the description, or if you're listening to this somewhere else, it's in the show notes. And it's my gift to you for taking the time to work on your health because that's so valuable. Remember, safe, predictable, boring, and consistent is what works best. It's what can move you in the right direction. Don't get caught up with the crazy heroic treatments or the thought that you can do one thing differently and change everything. It's all about showing up consistently, boring, safe, and slow. You've got this. Keep going. You can take back your body and feel like yourself again.